Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the September 11th, 2025 budget meeting for Timberlane Regional School District. Can we please call the roll?
Sue Sherman,
She is excused.
Liz Costa,
Present.
Catherine Consalvo. Here. Lauren Schlurf.
Here.
Karen White.
Here.
Katie Knutson.
Here.
Julie Hammond.
Here.
Brian Smith.
Here.
Sheila Lowe.
Here.
Sabrina Auburn.
She is excused. We have the, did you want to start the meeting?
I would love to.
Okay.
Absolutely. It's good to see everybody tonight. I just wanted to deviate from the budget committee agenda for a brief period of time. Just wanted to recognize for the elected officials at the table in the budget committee, we've had a staff loss at Pollard Elementary School. Amy Lagasse is a school counselor there. She's been employed with us since 2022, and she has lost her battle with cancer. We are supporting Pollard students and staff the best that we are able to right now. We had a crisis team there this morning. On behalf of the school district, I just wanted to extend our appreciation and let Jason know, Amy's husband at home, the impact that she had on the staff there in such an incredible short amount of time. So I wanted this group to know that, and there'll be more information forthcoming as we continue to partner with Jason on how we can support the family down the road.
Thank
If I
you.
could ask just for a brief moment for us to have a moment of reflection and silence, and then we can move with the agenda.
Absolutely.
Appreciate that. Thanks for that, and Pollard's got the support across this district.
Thank you. Something that's missing from our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you could rise and do that. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next, we have the approval of minutes for the March 27th, 2025 organizational meeting and the March 27th regular meeting. If we could do these one at a time, that would be greatly appreciated.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from March 27th, 7 p.m., which was, I believe, the organizational meeting.
Correct. I'll second.
Any comments or concerns? Corrections? All those in favor? Unanimous? That would be 700. Next, we have the regular meeting minutes.
Make a motion to accept the regular meeting minutes from March 27th, 2025.
I'll second that. We have a motion and a second. Any corrections, comments? All in favor? Unanimous, 700. Thank you. We're on to correspondence. I received an email today from John Downing, 17 Phillipswood Road, Sandown, New Hampshire. Attention Bug Cobb. I'm writing today to ask the elected Bug Cobb members to work through this year's proposed fiscal year 26-27 budget in a different approach than prior years. The past approach was to have department heads give a presentation of what they feel is needed for their departments. I certainly agree with their recommendations, however, many data points are available and can be used to achieve an accurate accounting of the prior year's expenditures. The suggested data points listed below are very easy to request from the CFO. I've already done so via right to know requests. The Timberlane Regional School District accounting PO system, a filtered report of paid for each accounting chart account number will show actual dollars spent. 2 bank accounts of all TRSD owned accounts, a beginning balance sheet from the bank will be a factual begin to the year. An ending balance sheet from the bank will be a factual ending of the year. A factual comparison can then be made to compare bank documents for actual monies ending, for actual monies expended in that fiscal year. 3, accounting revenues. The use of monies is confused between operating capital, lease, and other monies designated for specific purposes. The same Timberlane Regional School District accounting PO system can be filtered to show the actual expended dollars from each bank account to the specific purpose. I understand that the Timberlane Regional School District is run by a bottom line budget system. There may be benefits to a BLB, but there's hardly any transparency as to what is spent on items and from what accounts. Please consider this information provided to the committee, although believed to be accurate, may not be. Please question the document sources provided. The last item of note is Timberlane Regional School District spent $10 million plus or minus in 24-25 than in the previous year. The average is $1.9 million a year. If the lease prepay is accounted for, the district still spent $5 million over the average of the prior 10 years. What was this additional $5 million spent on? If left to the taxpayers to make changes at the deliberative session, the decisions that will need to be made will be far more difficult for the administration, as proven at the last deliberative session. I would strongly urge this committee to have a healthy, honest, in-depth discussion about what the number really is that's needed, not wanted, to successfully pay the bills in 26-27, and show you care about the education of the children and respect the ability of the community to meet the obligations demanded by the budget. Sincerely, John Downing. Any other correspondence? Or any delegates and individuals here this evening? None. And administrative report.
Thank you, Liz. I'm happy to begin for that. A few things to run through for the group tonight that we'll kind of be reflecting, and then I'd like to plan out kind of what we'll be seeing in the presentations. Before I do any of that, I just wanted to give 2 comments in terms of like an opening statement of how we can frame this budget cycle. The first is something I think I repeated here last year, is I don't think that they're mutually exclusive, and I mean by that the taxpayer and what we need to deliver for students. I think that this group is going to be able to get to a budget that's going to be able to provide for both of them, having high quality personnel and resources for kids, and also being cognizant of the taxpayers that are funding those sources. The second thing that I would remind you of, that your job is really difficult. And why it's difficult is because you are projecting things out to the future. So just let me give you a couple of numbers to kind of set the context right now. We're having conversations here in September of 2020. Anybody? 5, thank you. So when we move forward, we're not going to spend a single penny of the budget we're talking about right now for how many more months? 10 more months, okay? And we won't spend the last penny of that budget for 22 more months from this period. And I say that because that is the challenge. It's about projecting things out into the future around changing needs. And I'm excited to see what this group is going to be able to put together, kind of based upon the starting point that we'll bring forward to you through the process. A couple of updates in the past. There's been some legislative changes that both Marie and I wanted to make this committee aware of. Specifically, House Bill 394, 2 substantial changes for this group here. The first is that it changes the complexity of the budget committee. There will still be school board representation. That's represented by Katie here tonight. The change in the RSA is that the school board member on the budget committee no longer is a voting member of the budget committee. They're here to be representative, give input, help us, guide us, but they are no longer a voting member per RSA. And the second change is not necessarily a change for Timberlane because it's been our past practice, but it is now required of the budget committee to hold votes on all cost item warrant articles, including the operating budget. If you recall on the ballot, there's typically in the italics at the bottom about yay or nay in terms of recommend or not. That's simply a requirement upon the budget committee this year, and we'll be sure that we are pushing you guys that way when we get to those points. That's a legislative update. I also talked to you at the last meeting. I'd bring back to you where the tax cap subgroup committee is at the board level at this time. If you recall, there's a subcommittee of the board investigating the feasibility and impact of a tax cap. That group has well been working throughout the summertime. They've concluded their second and most likely final meeting. They divided up into 3 groups. They searched out information for what's the legal questions that we have. Secondly, we reached out to other school districts that are engaged in the tax cap and learned from their experiences. And most specifically for us, we work with Maria to look at the fiscal ability of Timberlane to meet any of those tax cap numbers. So those were the 3 working groups. The group is at consensus that research and work is done. The group has appointed 2 members of the committee to present to the school board. Those individuals are Mary Ann Springer as a school board member and Sean O'Neill as a member of the public. Right now, tentatively, I'm working with Katie and the school board to schedule that presentation to the board in the second meeting of October. Lastly, in terms of updates, I do have a budget committee calendar around building tours, Liz. We're looking at dates in October and November that will coincide with events at the school where we can have members of budget committee there, members of the school administration and district administration, and present some information to folks that are there in terms of the virtual tours of the building. Instead of doing that tonight, I think I can work with you and Karen and get a schedule out there and we can kind of get participants signed up that way. Excellent.
And it's not going to be a requirement that we go to all of them. We're going to ask you to go to your town school
Your town
if you're
schools.
able, or the high school if your child goes to the high school, middle school, or whatever town you're from, and to make it a little easier on everybody to share the load.
That's true. Okay. 2 things I want to share about presentations that are upcoming, just to preview kind of what the framework will be. Dean, on the slideshow that's here, do you see a graph in it that's a bar graph that's horizontal that we could get to for the first piece? There, perfect. Thank you so much. The first thing I wanted to frame for you tonight is that everything on the left-hand side there are our departments. These are the pieces that make up the operational part of the operational budget. And these are all the folks that you're going to hear from throughout this process. So for instance, you'll see SAU there, kind of upper quadrant of that. I'm going to present that for you folks here tonight, okay? What I'm showing you here is the percent of the total budget within these departments as it relates to the current year we're in, fiscal year 26. And I do it because I want folks to understand the parts of the whole as we move through this. If you added up all of these percentages for the operating budget, you would get to a number that would equate to about 26%. All right, 26% of the costs you are going to hear through departmental reports. That leaves 74% of the budget sitting in personnel, the people doing the work. And I want this committee to understand that difference about the different percentages that are allocated to the operating budget. This percent for these pieces, super majority percentage, 74% for personnel. Thank you, Dean, very much. I appreciate it. Respective to this end, each presentation that comes through will have 5 slides to show you. The first slide will simply be the part of the whole. So when I present the SAU tonight, you'll see me commenting, it's a little over 0.1% of the budget. That's what I'm going to present to you and what we're going to talk about. After that slide is part of the whole, each presenter is going to move through a series of slides. First one will be numbers. Each presenter is going to use that slide to educate the budget committee and the public who or what is touching that area of the budget, who's benefiting from those dollars that are allocated to these varying departments. The next slide that they will present to you will be drivers. These will be the predominant large percentages, ideas around what is driving the dollar amounts, the big percentages behind those departmental budgets. Then each presenter will get to a single slide that will be called seeds. This is when we are going to be planning future-oriented things for you, things we're thinking about down the road that may restrict the budget itself, or maybe where potentially additional revenue may be coming from, the things departmental leaders are thinking as they craft this budget. They're looking also long-term and how they're kind of incorporating that planning. And lastly, there'll simply be a slide just to close. It will again show you the part of the whole. And at that point, we can open for discussion, questions or items around that we can hold discussion on. So that's the general framework.
Okay, thank you.
But And Liz, that's really all I wanted to do tonight for the group before we get into the new business piece.
All right, reports of the committees, the budget committee members. CIP hasn't met since the end of last school year. So we start up next week again, I believe. And we touched on the tax cap and then school board.
I have nothing further to add.
Okay.
Happy to be here.
As we look at this, I would like to have us review everything and then get the questions, send the questions to myself, Karen, Maria, and the superintendent so that we understand what's being asked and answered. If you need documentation, paperwork, so that we all know as this leadership team what the conversation will be and what's being asked so that no one is blindsided up here. Because we want to make sure we have the information for you as we are presenting everything. And I also would like a consensus if we want to hold off and then do the big review at the end or vote on the budgets as we go. I would prefer the review. I think it's easier to see what the number is as we build up, but if other people have.
I think you should probably do it at the end only because things may come up.
Okay,
Yeah, that's served us well the last couple of seasons, I think.
okay.
To have the big picture look before we vote.
Are we all in consensus for that? Okay, thank you. So I guess we're going to review the fiscal year 25 budget to actual financials.
Yeah, Maria's got to do this piece. So she's got 3 specific things to talk through. To begin with us.
Absolutely.
So if you notice, you have a lot of packages in front of you. I'm gonna start with this one that has the 25 voted budget against the 25 actions. I want to start this by saying that one of the budget committee members, Sheila, she brought something up to our attention, which I consider very valuable and worth to discuss and dig into because I think it's a very good piece of information. So she brought up the amount of budget transactions that happen throughout the year. In 2025, we have 274 budget entries. To circle back to what Superintendent Krieger just said, this was a budget in 2025 that was created in the fall of 2023, right? The actuals that we had in the fall of 2024, the actuals that we had at that time were the actuals for fiscal year 2023, right? So that was the best piece of information that we had when we created this budget for 2025.
Correct.
Right.
I'm with you.
With that said, we also need to take into consideration that our business is in the service industry, right? We are serving children. We're serving children at 7 different schools. Throughout the year, in one single school, there are multiple things that happen that can switch one line in $1 million or $500,000 or $250,000. One child in our school can change one line over $250,000 if it needs services, specialized services. So I'm just putting this into context so we all understand that in 22 months, by the time one budget gets realized from the minute that it started being planned, I understand we do the best that we can to project, but it's not easy to project line by line, expense by expense. Now, all the budget transfers happen because we do not charge things to the wrong accounts. We make a great effort to charge every single expense that goes through this district to the correct account. We have to report that to the state of New Hampshire and we have to report that to the Department of Revenue. They do look into that. We get reviews if we do not charge things where they belong. So we could go the easy way and just don't do budget transfers and just let accounts go negative and who cares because, we just need to purchase that and we just charge it where the money is. That's not right accounting. We strive here to do accounting right and to charge things where they belong. So that's why we have 274 transactions in the year, allocating money where it's needed and not where it was placed in the budget. With that said, this chart that I did here, I compared the 2025 budget to the 2025 actuals, and I separated it in the three big blocks that we usually do, which is personnel, benefits, and operating. To give you a point of reference, if we start with the salaries, in 2023, the actual expenditure for salaries was 36.4 million. The actual in 2025 was 36.5. In 2 years, it only increased by $500,000. Now today we all know why this was. It's because we haven't been able to hire people to hire for all the positions that we carry in our budget, and we have had to supplement those services with contracted services. So that portion of the budget, which is 40% of the budget, only increased $500,000 in 2 years because the market circumstances change. Because we can't hire people anymore, now we have to hire contracted services. Now, on the benefit side, in the actual for fiscal year 2023 was 20.2 million. The actual in 2025 was 21.2 million. Why that happened? Because all the rates went up. Specifically, New Hampshire Retirement System, which we pay New Hampshire Retirement System to all of our employees, and the health insurance, which has been a great expense year after year. Then on the operating side, which is again about 25 to 26% of our budget, the actual amount in 2023 was 20.3 million, and the actual amount in 2025 was 25.2. That's a $5 million difference. 3.8 million of that $3 million of that 5 was the prepayment of the lease, and 1.8 million of the remaining was contracted services, supplementing for those positions that we couldn't hire. So again, this is a very big picture to portray what really sincerely happens throughout the year, right? We plan for something, we do the best estimate that we can in the accounts and in the places where we think we're gonna spend them, but in 2 years, a lot of things happen.
So Liz, this is a really good document for the group to look at. It's big picture. It ties into some of the percentages, and really quickly the group can see where the money was spent and where the variances are in order of their amount of the group.
Okay, and this is great, and thank you, Mrs. Lowe's, for,
Well, we still have another issue though, because you are not showing where the monies came from. You see what we spent, but we don't see where there was money extra in the lines that got transferred to the lines that were under. See,
so you're looking for.
no, what I'm trying to explain, Liz, is that when we get to this document, which is my favorite document in the world, is the financial. When we get this, the year after the past budget season has closed, the past year has closed, all these transfers have already happened.
Right.
So the picture is all the transfers came out of this line to go into this line to make it look that we didn't overspend some lines or we added some salary into contracted services, that kind of thing.
And what I heard Maria saying there is we do that so we can keep an accurate history of where the actual money is being
Right.
spent.
So if I went into the 18 pages of transfers, a lot of little money, because that was one of the questions I was like looking at this going, a lot of little stuff. And then I finally asked the question, what's the circuit breaker for the school board? And she said 25,000. I said, okay, that makes sense now. But I'll give you, for instance, elementary supplies. Now, I've done this transfer thing twice. I've only looked at 2 different years. And every year there's a little bit extra money in those lines. And every time that little bit of extra money gets transferred into a different line. Little monies, like $2,500. But it's consistent. Both times, those lines were consistently taken from and moved to a transferred line. So my question is, if we have lines that we know are consistently overspent, let's say, shouldn't we budget for that, knowing every single year they're overspent? Does it make sense what I'm saying?
I think we do the best we can to do.
No, I know, but
constraints that
you
are
get what I'm
allowed.
saying though.
Is there additional information we can add to this that would help
It's,
fulfill whatever you're looking to see?
Pretty much, you're suggesting we fully fund these lines that have not had enough money going forward? They're not under budget?
what I'm saying is that you've got 18 pages worth of transfers.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that it has
lot
to
of
come from
money.
supplies where it's easy
But
to
the
take money from when
total-
it's needed if it's not fully funded.
The
I agree
total
with you, we
of
should.
those transfers was $7 million. That's a lot of money going from line to line. So for us to sit here and try to come up with a cohesive budget that's actual, it's kind of hard to do when you don't see the lines that were over, the lines that were under. Do you get what I'm saying? Because by the time I get this, it's already done.
I'd be interested in other committees' point of view, but I don't necessarily see it that way. I see it that I'm looking exactly at the actuals. The exact places where money was spent for the reasons they are, so they're coded appropriately. And I see it as we're recording the transfers so we can increase our degree of accuracy, so we understand the movement here. And it is what you need to see the actual transfers and the reasons
No,
for
what
them.
I'm saying is that nobody here has ever asked for those transfers, except for me.
Is it something that we can present?
So how would this committee know that these transfers had happened?
Because the money is actually sitting in the year-to-date actual spend. So take, for example, I know she did 275 budget transfers. I did a transfer today for 40 cents. But it was because shipping was off for something for equipment. I had to do a budget transfer. But when you're looking at the reports that Maria provides, when you're looking at the prior year spend, that is the actual spend that happened. So that is the true number that was actually spent. I mean, we've provided things such as the budget, the true voted budget, but then there's also the report that budget with transfers. So there's a couple different ways of looking at the numbers. I mean, it all totals the same at the bottom,
Right.
but budget with transfers will then show it less in one line and more in the other. So it's which report do you want to look at to do the comparison, but if you really truly want to see what was spent, you look at the year-to-date for now 2025 as to what was spent on that particular line.
I guess my point is that these transfers are happening, right? Which we know they have to happen, I get that. But this board's going into a brand new budget year, not knowing what was transferred the year before. Not knowing whether there was more money in this line, less money in that line. Did we actually budget this line correctly? Did we under budget that line because we needed to put money into this one? It's just the big picture, and like I said, I'm the only one in this place that's asked for the transfers.
If I may say something, I completely understand your concern, and that's why I brought it up.
Can we have one conversation?
Yep.
Thank you.
Like I said, it is extremely hard to predict the circumstances.
Absolutely.
If you look at this long report, I'm gonna point you to one line to look at. Towards the bottom of the report, maybe upper, lower mid report, you can see the account that is 100, 1200, 330. For professional services.
We know about that one, yeah.
If you follow that line went from $363,000 in 2021, or let's go with 2023 because that was the actual that we had for this year's budget. So it went from $757,000 to $3.2 million in 2 years.
Correct. So,
Yes, there was a budget transfer for sure to cover that, but how did we know back in 2023 that we were gonna spend $3.2 million 2 years later? It's like today, I'm gonna say, oh, maybe we're gonna spend $6 million in 2 years. I don't know. We do our best estimate based on people that we know we need to provide the services that we currently running. But what services are gonna be needed in 2 years, I don't know. Again, 3 kids can move into the district that need OT, PT, all these different services, and that can add to $750,000 for 3 kids. We don't know.
you're just talking about contracted services, I'm talking about sites, I'm talking about facilities, I'm talking
No.
about all
I
these other
I
monies that are
think
going
it
into
was
different
just an
places.
example.
Yeah, this is just
I
an
get that.
example. This is why
We
I
had a
create-
conversation today, we went back and forth on this, but there's monies being moved.
Is there something, Sheila, you would specifically like us to bring to the budget committee?
No, I think that my right to know should have been sent out to the entire committee so that they could see exactly what was going on. That's all. Like, you have to see it to understand it.
Would you like us to share with the budget committee the information that you're?
I'd love that,
We'd be happy to do that.
Sure. We can absolutely
because then
share.
everybody can look at it for themselves, see whether they want to,
Excellent. And I will
see
work,
what the differences are or whatever.
and I will work with the chair to perhaps set that as an agenda item for discussion at the next
You
meeting.
don't wanna look at it, that's fine, but I think it's important.
Julie?
What about when Sheila had mentioned that there were certain accounts that over a span of years were either consistently underspent or overspent? Could we maybe set some type of a threshold, and then if you're finding that, geez, every year the contracted services is always too low, maybe we need to put more money in there, but then some other cost is always coming in under, so we're always able to pull money from there. But maybe if you've got, big, pick a threshold of a number, 10,000, 20,000, and go and look over the last several years to see if there's a trend. And maybe we do need to put more money into different areas and less in others. Something like
Sure, I
that.
can
Would,
generate a report of that. I can tell you that the big dollars, the significant amounts are always in personnel, because that's where the over budget is. Again,
Right.
that is an over budget, but it's 40%. Personnel and benefits is 76% of our budget. So the real dollars are in those lines. And again, it's something that we do carry a position because we need that position to provide the services, whether it is gonna realize or not, or with us hiring someone. That's something that we have to hope it will. But if it doesn't, the real money, the real dollars are there in personnel. Like Sheila said, yeah, in supplies, probably in the elementary schools, we have $3,000. If you want me to create that report at that threshold of $3,000 in an $85 million budget, I can certainly do it. I don't know if it's the best use of
No,
my
I would
time.
set I think a higher threshold, or take a look at, over the last 10 years, we've had the same positions open that are not getting filled. Let's just put them in under contracted employees and quit dragging them along.
Well, we just
Because the trend is, it's not happening.
we just eliminated 58 positions, as you all know, so that is not gonna be a problem anymore because 58 positions were eliminated. So now we're gonna face the other side of the story, which is where is the money gonna come to cover those
I know.
services that we need to cover, because that was the money covering those services. So
So Liz, this was the variance report that
Mhm.
Marie had put together. I think you and I can talk about maybe setting an agenda item in the future to talk
Yep.
about it. And the action item I'm hearing is that we will circulate the transfer documentation to this group and perhaps set that as an agenda item for
Mhm.
next meeting to talk
That's
through.
fine.
Marie's got 2 other pieces specific to that piece of new business that she wants to talk you through.
So the next piece is the dashboard, which is this one. This is the report that we are presenting to the school board on a monthly basis to see where we are comparing budget to actual and prior year to actual on the current year. The first square that you see there is comparing prior year to current year, both for revenue and expenses. The next two charts compare revenue and expenses on a monthly basis, year over year. On the second row of graphs, the first graphs compares budget to actual for 2025, both for revenue and expenses. The graph in the middle gives the breakdown of the actual revenue that we received. The third graph on the middle row represents the actual expenses, the breakdown of the actual expenses in 2025. The bottom chart compares monthly expenses, 24 to 25. And then at the bottom, we have some numbers that are interesting to look with in combination with the numbers, which is how many students we have, how many employees, and how many contractors we have.
And the third piece of information.
And the third piece of information is our 2026 budget, which is our current year budget, which is this packet here. That tells us our current budget, the budget that was voted, there were articles that passed, so we ended up with a $82 million budget. Again, it gives the breakdown. Salaries is 47.7% at almost $40 million. Benefits is $21 million, 26% of the total budget, and the operating budget is 26%. I want to bring to your attention as well that out of that 26% that Mr. Kriegers were referring to and that these departments referred to, $2.4 million of that 26% is the two lines that we have to appropriate for grants and food service. So 12% of that 26% are those two lines. Only two lines that we have to have an appropriation for the money that we spend in grant funded programs and for money that we spend in the food service program. So really what this represents here is less than the 26% because the other 12% is those two lines. And again, that is accompanied by the detailed budget report. And I run it as of today. So that report is as of today where we are in 2026. So when you look at the bottom, year to date, we have spent $11.5 million out of the $82.3 million.
Are we on track to spend that full amount?
As of today, yes, obviously, we have only two months of the year where school only started a week ago, so
Okay,
it's not a good measurement to say 2 weeks after school, after the start of the school. I cannot tell you where we are on track or not because we haven't have a full payroll yet. So, but yeah,
all right, thanks.
Liz,
Julie?
I just wanted to point one thing out on this sheet. That center circle graph that you did on the actual revenue. Look at the percentage from state and federal. That is so low. 15.7%. That is all that is
That's all we
coming
get.
from the state and the government. 82% is funded by the taxpayers.
Yes.
This is the problem.
This is
I
the New
agree.
Hampshire funding model.
You're absolutely correct, yeah. Are we at B or C now?
I combined A and B. I think I'm ready to present the SAU budget and then the school board budget if the committee's ready for presentations. Dean, is there any good way for me to control that slideshow as opposed to telling you to like hit? Thank you.
Up and down on the upper.
In this room.
toward anywhere in
In this
particular?
room.
Thank you. All right. So here we are, slide one for SAU budget, part of the whole. You can see through on the top, all these banners will also be the same. You've got 3 years of actuals left to right, starting with fiscal 23, fiscal 24, and fiscal 25. You then can see where we currently sit in the fiscal 26 voted budget. You can see where we are proposing next year, and then you can see the variance between the actual and the proposed for 27. And for the SAU portion of the budget, that stands at about $61,000. In terms of part of the whole, the SAU budget comprises 0.13% of the whole budget. Numbers kind of give the committee an idea of like who or what this touches here. There's about 15 staff that comprise the work here at the SAU. Any given year, there's always between maybe 30 to 50 district retirees across all positions. And those are things that are funded out of this piece as well. We have 9 district buildings that we touch. Last year, the SAU sent out 5,000 individual discrete mailings. We're connected to one World Wide Web, and I give that as kind of a thing that we touch here because of all the organizations that we're a part of, and most likely also the professional services that we are aligned with at the SAU to help run the operations of the district that connects us digitally. And we're also members of anywhere between 10 and 15 professional organizations as the SAU. And those are the folks and or the things that kind of comprise that budget there. In terms of the drivers of the proposed, and again, that fiscal 27 proposed number is $102,836. Of it, these are the main kind of breakdowns of the drivers. 22% of that number is really geared towards professional development. That's made up of course reimbursement for SAU staff and also travel and workshop orientations that get them to areas of the state that are delivering professional information that we want to have access to. 22% of that line is supplies. I wanted to point out to the budget committee, we've taken on additional fingerprinting responsibilities over the year, and we've also made a decision to fund a district professional development lunch out of that. It's been a good rallying cry for the district to be able to convene around food when we're doing some professional learning as a whole district staff for the 1 or 2 times that we are together as a whole district staff on one physical campus. Professional services that's connected to the World Wide Web there is also about 15% of that total budget. There's a large portion of the budget, 14%, that's dedicated to supporting those retirement functions and recognitions for those 30 to 50 people every year. And about 11% of the SAU budget is around professional memberships, tying us professionally to those organizations as members so we have access to those informations. In terms of Siege, just things that I'm thinking about as I move forward here. I want to continue to talk with the board about professional development opportunities for SAU staff outside of the district. I think there are large advantages for not only tying into the knowledge that's here in Timberlane, but certainly going outside of the district and learning from other schools and districts and organizations. I do think there's conversations to be had here about advertising. It's all about the brand, and I think that we need to do a better job of communicating all the great work that happens here in the district, not only to attract people, but just to be communicating about the work that's being done at Timberlane. Things that I want to be thinking about potentially saving on down the road, supplies, stuff, and things. It's 22% of the budget. There's always an area that we could concentrate on in terms of making some elimination and be thinking clearly about needs. And the SAU was recently outfitted with some new equipment and facility needs. I don't anticipate any large costs for that through the SAU portion over the course of time. Liz, at this point, I'll pause. I'll remind us we're talking about 0.13% of the budget. Answer any questions. If there's any discussion or follow-up, we can do that now. And I know that everyone here knows available. If there's questions that come in after, we can certainly present answers or responses at the next meeting.
Okay, Mrs. Lowe's.
Got one. What's under miscellaneous expense?
Yes. What is under
What
that?
is it?
Can you guys pull up the journal entries there?
Just curious what comes under miscellaneous expense.
Thank you.
Other than that, you did a bang up job.
I appreciate that, Sheila. The big one under miscellaneous expense is the retirement piece.
That's retirement?
Yeah, I think there's about 10,000 of that $14,000 line that is allocated to celebrate and recognize staff retirement.
So these are the gifts, basically. Those sell tickets, so you pay for their tickets and the gifts.
It is, it's partially self-funded, yes.
Yeah,
People
okay.
who attend are certainly paying to be there.
Okay.
Anything else to entertain about the SAU portion?
Anything else?
Do you want me to make a motion to accept it?
No, we're going,
Doing that?
well, I think we're gonna accept this to hold off to
Right.
review it later, yeah. Sorry, I'm just
That's where I was.
not here.
I see you, you're right here.
Thank you.
We got you. School board, same header as the SAU budget. You can see the 3 years of actuals there, 23, 24, 25. You can see the current year we're situated in, fiscal 26. And you can see the proposed budget for the school board has a variance between the year of about $44,000. In terms of the percent of a whole, as we look at fiscal 26, the school board budget comprises 0.4% of the budget, or a little less than 0.5%. In terms of numbers, again, people and places that this touches, it provides for the stipends for the 9 school board members. There are 4 auxiliary roles that the board is required to retain. These are the clerks and treasurers that participate in district operations and are required roles. The school board negotiates with 8 collective bargaining agreements across our district. We also have 4 audit connections. So not only is there our auditor, but there's also interfacing with the Department of Revenue and Administration and the Department of Education on here with the school board level. So that is a large cost there. There's also 1 law firm that the school board contracts with to represent the board. This board has made a decision to make a change this year and will be represented by Sol, Leslie, and Kidder. The other big thing to point out here is that this also covers the cost of the annual meeting. So we're an SB2 district. There are 2 sessions there. So those district costs associated with the deliberative session and the printing of ballots are also found in this budget. Drivers of this budget, and again, we are looking at a proposal of $313,870. 59% of that is the legal fee, and again, that is mostly around collective bargaining agreements and places that the district is looking for advice, mostly around avoiding liability. 15% of that budget is dedicated to the cost of the annual audit. 8% is those auxiliary roles I alluded to earlier about paying the stipends of the clerks and the treasurers. 5% goes to the publications and pieces of the annual meeting that the district is responsible for hosting. And then professional memberships, board members accounts for about 4% of that total budget. Things I'm thinking about here in terms of seeds moving forward. We think we got a really good handle on our collective bargaining agreements about how they're spaced out right now. We're negotiating 4 now. There's a few more next year, but we're going to have that one final conversation if we need to align any of them differently to have the best advantage to be putting that for voters. But for right now, next year, we don't have as many CBAs to negotiate as we do this year. Hence, you'll see a decrease in the actual legal line. There's also opportunities potentially for the district to save some costs here through our insurance company, Primex. There are some opportunities for us to get legal counsel there. These are more for special education mediated agreements or due process. There's a deductible for us, but it's also covered by our insurance. So we're exploring avenues to access that as a means for access legal coverage as opposed just to paying it out of pocket. I'm going to continue to talk with the board about increasing their organizations and service memberships and how to increase their understanding of law and the budgeting process across New Hampshire. And similar to the SAU, I want to be talking to the school board about increasing our footprint in the community in terms of advertising or how we get the word out about the work of the district. And Liz, at this time, questions, discussion, follow-up. And again, we're talking about 0.4% of the total budget.
Any questions, comments, concern?
It's a
Sheila?
relatively small amount, but I'm curious, how does the school district advertise themselves? I mean, do other districts do that? What does that look like?
Most of the advertising is around recruitment, Karen.
Got it.
And that's kind of where it's there now. There's some advertising around also the annual meetings that Timberlane has done in the past about postcards or mailings about informing the
So
public.
it's really like print.
It's
type.
print stuff. I think that my point here is I think it can be more.
What's your vision for more though? How do you think?
I think schools are constantly faced with how best to communicate with their constituents. So if we're serious about communicating, potentially we put some money behind those communication structures.
Yeah, like geo-targeted CTV campaigns, geo-targeted podcast campaigns, things like that, where you're targeting people in a specific region or zip code.
Yeah.
Got it.
Great. Sheila?
One more time, miscellaneous expense. What's under that?
Miscellaneous expense school board.
Cause I'm having like a brain thing going on and I can't remember that one. How about you, Liz? You remember from back in the day?
I thought it was just we used to do the retirement out of our budget a long time ago.
The chairs, rocking chairs?
Yeah, that stuff and people who left.
For me, Sheila, right now, I'm targeting some staff appreciation pieces. So the 2 times we get together over the course of the time, we're recognizing teacher appreciation days, staff appreciation days, those things. There's also for negotiations, it supports some of those activities as well for both sides to move towards win-wins. Do you have journal entries for any of that stuff that's more specific than that in actuals from last year?
I think we actually,
Well, it kind of jumped. That's why I was wondering, because it's stayed pretty steady for a couple of years.
It has, and I think Liz may allude to this earlier. There, over the last 3 or 4 years, there's been some cleaning between the SAU budget and the school board budget.
Yeah.
About where things have been sitting. So you'll see some fluctuations of some numbers that look significant, but it's more about reorganizing and recategorizing where they're living.
It's kind of like shifting when they, correct me if I'm mistaken, but they started to put like building cleaning supplies in each of the buildings and not under one big budget, so that it was charged off to those schools. So this is what I believe what Justin is alluding to, is that they're taking what the district does and the SAU does in the school board, and they're looking at who actually does what. So
Understood.
it's a better fit for the budget.
Yes. Is there any more detail we have in those lines? And if not tonight, Sheila, we can certainly report out next meeting.
Yeah, it would be great if just to see where the shift was, because I know when I was on the school board,
so it's a staff appreciation, negotiations, and actually the stipend to the trustee of the trust fund, which is the person that handles our scholarships and that.
So that's
And
under
stipend.
miscellaneous, not under,
Oh, no, the contracted service really is not a
Trustee of the trust fund is under the 890.
right, that's a miscellaneous.
Right.
Right, because
And
it's
those
not
fees
really
went up.
a contracted service, I mean, it's not someone that works here, so it's not really a category for it, that's why we charge it there. That's 25.
I would have thought it would have been in like under other professional services or office salaries or thrown in there.
We can move it to the professional services, but we don't contract it, it's like.
No, I get it.
It's the
No, I understand.
student activities and the,
all right.
but we can certainly move it.
No, I'm just thought it was already in there with the stipends and
Yeah, so basically those are the 3 categories that are in there.
Are we ready? Are you, is Ken
I'm gonna
doing
pass the
this?
clicker to the technology director.
Don't throw that.
Do we want to accept this budget too, before we move on to technology for review?
We didn't accept this too, we didn't.
We didn't accept it.
we didn't accept
Oh,
the
we
first
didn't?
one. We
Okay,
never
that's
did a
right.
motion or anything,
All right.
so
We'll do it. Thank you.
there you go.
Yeah,
That's what I thought was happening. That's fine.
it's okay. It's okay.
Should I speak to this, Ms. Maria, or do you guys want to?
I'm happy to do this, yes. My apologies, Ken. Similar, you can see Ken's 3 actuals. You can see where we sit in fiscal '26. You can see Ken's proposing about $1.1 million for fiscal '27. And you can see the variance there that I think reads 36,000. Karen, can you see that?
Yes,
Yes.
36,493.
All right, and Ken is presenting to you about 1% of the total operating budget.
Yes. Thank you. So let's talk numbers. What does this budget support? Really everybody in the district, 3,300 students, 700 staff members, including the support staff and administrators. Students include out-of-district placements, special education, your parents and guardians are supported through technology, through online enrollment, all the way through graduation transcripts and everything in between with reporting, report cards, all the communications we do home, and community at large. You have your websites and other ways we communicate with the community. What does that mean? It also includes, you think about devices. So we're a one-to-one district, not only students, but also staff. So not great at math, but I think 3,300 plus 700 is 4,000. That's 4,000 devices. Educational programs and applications are included in that. Business applications like our SIS, or Student Information Services, Power School, ERP, Enterprise Research Management, ERM, which is school ERP. There's a lot of different applications and resources we support with technology. So some of the drivers on the district budget and why this is going up is I had last year we had a bunch of recurring costs on the recycle maintenance on equipment that was removed from the budget, but I want to put back in. The reason I want to put it back in is the equipment does not get any newer. We not buying that equipment this year. I think it was 160,000 roughly that was removed from the budget for devices and other equipment that we're just foregoing this year. That equipment, so we're skipping a year in the life cycle of that equipment. I would like to put that back in and get back on that schedule. A big item for this year, I usually pick one big item a year to try to keep it level funded as much as possible. The big item this year is a new campus-wide intercom system to support the middle school, PAC, and high school. That is the Overcom over-the-air intercom system, so that if there's an emergency or just an announcement in general, getting to those different buildings. It's a security issue right now. I can tell you that is a very, very old system. We've had some issues with it. It's been breaking down and we've had to do some replacement on parts. I would really like to get that brand new for the whole campus, integrated, and supporting some new features like the walkie-talkie integration, some of the features that newer systems will support. Third item there is this is something I put in every year, which is just increased cost and subscription services. Everything, Power School, school ERP, other services like that are constantly going up anywhere from 1% to 5%. So I'm watching trends on that and trying to, like Justin and Maria alluded to earlier, we're trying to guess what the cost of things will be in July. I can call Power School up and ask, what are you gonna cost in July? They're not gonna tell me because they don't even know. But I can tell you it's not gonna get any cheaper. So we're trying to hit a bullet with a bullet, really, with the budgeting, and we're trying to guess what it will be. So I've strategically placed some increases in certain applications to try and meet that increased cost. We've added more things to the technology line. This isn't necessarily a negative thing because it's a zero-sum game. It's been removed from other budgets. Things like video surveillance, access control, intercom systems, online services that were in other departments, we rightfully put over to technology. So they'd be under one DAC, one budget item versus spreading it around and having it spread out over different budget DACs. The result is that I think it's easier to follow and budget for it, but also it's increased the technology budget as a result because we're adding more and more services to that as things fall under technology. Something where we always try to look at is the phone communications lines. Those have really gone up over the years. Things like your old copper fax lines, we removed from the district and gone to e-fax, which is just faxing over the internet, which is a lot less expensive. So we're looking at things like that. We're trying to save on those communication lines. And then we're always auditing and looking at the usage of the applications we use and whether or not they're actually being used, how often, and whether or not we can introduce more efficient and cost-effective applications to replace what we're using today. So things I'm looking at in the future is getting back on that life cycle for equipment. I think that's very important. We have, you have devices in the hands of students, staff, you have classroom technology like projectors, smart boards. Unfortunately, we would love this stuff to last 10, 20 years, it does not. There's a life cycle with it, we're trying to maintain it. We don't want to get too old in any one particular item because then we get those fluctuations in the budget. We really want to try to level fund that as much as possible. So being on a adequately funded life cycle is very important for that. So I want to get back on that life cycle. I'm looking at, looking at the future, enhanced network security. That's if you guys have watched the news, a lot of districts have been in the news, unfortunately, for certain negative things that have happened on their networks. I don't want that to happen here.
Neither do I, Ken.
require, yes.
None of us.
That requires some enhanced security, which unfortunately means some investments in different equipment for that. Physical security has moved over to technology as we put more and more things on the network. We've already talked about the video surveillance is something that used to be a closed system. It used to be the old CCTV that you see in your 7-Elevens. Everything runs on the network now. It's stored in the cloud. It's all network based and it's in my budget now. We're always looking to increase that security, to improve the amount of surveillance we have and the quality of it. Things we're talking about, I put this out there, just things we're talking about, nothing definitive, is vape detectors, environmental monitoring, so we're monitoring the humidity and the temperature in the schools to make sure those don't exceed certain thresholds and we can get alarms on them. And then the alarms themselves, right now it's still an old-fashioned copper alarm system. Maybe in the future we go to more of a cost-effective alarm system that runs over the network. We're gonna monitor the application usage and evaluate other solutions when needed. One example is next year we're moving to a new time and attendance application, which is a lot more cost-effective than what we use today. Should save us about $20K a year. So we're always evaluating and making sure that we have the most cost-effective and efficient applications we can use. You may have heard of AI being out there. That's obviously very big. We're integrating it into education in a smart and efficient way and the right way. That's going to require what's called a framework, which is a way for teachers and staff to implement it in their classrooms to make sure that it's being implemented in that way. That it requires some investment. So my eyes on and in my budget is an AI framework, so that next year we can make sure that's being fully funded and implemented, and we're using that in the correct way. And then finally, we're always looking at grants. I do want to put out there, we've used many grants in the past. The internet connections you see funded in your lines today, we always, since I've been here, have applied for what's called E-rate, which is a federal grant. We got money back on that. The firewalls that were funded last year, we're gonna get money on that. So whenever possible, the video cameras, in certain phases, we've gotten money back on those. We're always looking at the grants. We're always looking to get as much back as we can. Now, you probably already know this, but a lot of the grants require we fund these 100% upfront. It's unfortunate, but they just won't pay the vendors for us, and that would be great, but that's not the way it works. We have to pay the vendors and then we get reimbursed later. So that's why they're in my budget 100%, but we are looking at those grants. Any questions?
The new campus for the
Intercom system,
campus,
yeah.
the intercom system. How many kids between those 3 buildings and the safety of that with all that's going on?
It's about 1,800.
1,800 kids between those 3? Okay. It's about 50% of our population.
250 to 300 staff.
Okay.
Ken?
Yeah.
The hardware life cycle refresh, I'm assuming that's under 738 replacement computer network.
That's correct, yes.
The intercom, is that under 430 repair and maintenance? Or is that
Intercoms
also
are-
under
I
738?
believe it's under 738.
Okay.
Because it is there is a current system there, so I always look at it, is there something in place currently and are we replacing it? That's the way I kind of operate, right? Is Or since we're replacing, it would be 738,
Okay. I was just trying to understand the so the repair and maintenance line is significantly higher than previous years.
It
So
is,
I was just
yeah.
trying to understand what's driving that.
There's a couple things. That is the video surveillance, access control, and door intercom systems. So those three things are subscription based, meaning we pay a subscription yearly so that we can store the video and all the data in the cloud. That requires a yearly fee. Now, we've increased the number of cameras, access control points, and video and door intercoms over the years. So that number has increased as we've done that. And then also the firewalls, that was in the incorrect line, so we moved it to this to adequately account for that, which is the district firewall service support and updates. That used to be, I think it was an info access something or something else.
Software. The
Software or
info access.
something, yeah, we moved it to this because it's more accurately and under this line than it was under the previous, and that is an increased cost because those are new firewalls. The service support and updates is simply, it costs more, it did increase, yes, absolutely.
You see at the bottom of page 5 of his report is the detailed description of that $140,000 expense. It's basically 4 line items.
Yeah, those are the previous, and then the Wi-Fi support, we're coming off of when we purchased the access points, we had a multi-year maintenance contract with that, we're coming off of that. So we're getting back on to a yearly subscription with that. So that, you might not see that in previous years, and that's why, because it was included with the purchase price before. But you're right, I mean, that deadline did go up a bunch, yes, because of those items.
Thanks.
No problem.
Any other, Sheila?
Help me out here, because back when I was here, we were taking the Chromebooks out of CIP.
Good question, Sheila. So I have an update for you.
Chromebooks coming out.
I have an update for you. So CIP voted pretty unanimously, if I'm not mistaken, to remove any technology from the CIP that was funded by my regular budget. So everything you see in here is by my regular budget, ergo it was removed from the CIP lines.
Okay, so Chromebooks are in here?
CIP,
Mhm.
our Chromebooks are in here, yes,
Here,
yes.
under new,
And the replacement maybe?
replacement or new?
Replacement and network.
Okay, replacement, perfect. Well, no, I know those things last. They're terrible.
Depends on who you're using them, yeah.
Well,
3 to 4 years.
it's not even, I don't even think half of them last that long.
Well, technically, Google support updates on them for 6 now. They used to be indefinite, but they did put a hard cap on that.
So these are for basically all the district that you handle, right? And then with the individual schools, they come in with different softwares.
That would be a question for,
Primarily, so there's different types of applications and software, right? I cover pretty primarily, how do I use this? Tools or applications that are directory services like PowerSchool.
The overhead.
Stuff like that. Curriculum based, like classroom applications are in Sandy's budget, yeah.
Okay, that's what I was trying to figure out, because software is everywhere in this budget, and I can't figure out who's on first, what's on second.
Yeah, it's
And
like,
some schools use more than other schools.
yeah, we've tried,
Especially
we
in
have made an
elementary.
effort over the years to try to solidify those under district to take advantage of the cost, the
the licensing.
purchasing
District-wide.
more, you get the bulk
Right.
purchasing, right? You get
But
more.
it was just that I always noticed that certain schools had more, always asked for different or more softwares. Okay, so you're just overhead, you're the higher tier.
Yeah, in essence, yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions, follow up? Alrighty, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you.
I do have to say that Sandy and the principals in the last couple of years, we as a district have been making a big effort of centralizing like what are all the softwares that across the board are used and actually trying to get better pricing to get district-wide licensing instead of individual school licensing.
I always found it interesting. The different schools had different softwares, different, you get what I'm saying? Like Atkinson
Yeah.
Academy would do all these softwares over here, and Danville would do these softwares, but they wouldn't be the same.
And you may see a difference now.
Yeah.
Would hope so. Good evening. I will first introduce myself. I know many of you have been on the committee for a while. Others are new. I'm Sandy Allaire. I am the assistant superintendent, and I oversee all things curriculum, instruction, assessment, and professional learning. So I'll be presenting the following two budgets, starting with curriculum. So Justin, are you handling these, or I'm happy to, whatever you would like to do.
I'm confident that you can interpret this
Okay.
graph.
So for the overview, as you can see, the curriculum budget, which comprises, again, district-wide instructional materials and resources pertaining to all of the instruction that we do with our students in preschool all the way up through 12th grade. That comprises just 0.32% of our district operating budget. You can see the actuals and voted budget. Clearly, there was a decrease in this year's voted budget. Many of the reductions that were made as a result of the voted budget, many of them came out of instructional materials. And so you will see an increase in the fiscal year 27 proposed budget. That said, that constitutes a decrease as compared to the 25 actual spend. So moving forward. Again, I referenced that, kind of what this budget comprises. I'll speak to that a little bit more in detail. We serve our entire student population, which roughly is approximately 3,300 students across 7 schools, more than 500 staff members. That includes instructional resources provided to all of our teachers in all of our schools, support staff, resources for them when they are working with students, and also our administrators. Some of that connects with contracted services and trainings that we provide pertaining to instruction. We offer 18 different content areas up through the high school, but those strands begin all the way back in preschool and run all the way up. So content areas, math, science, business, world languages, computer science, technology, arts, music, all of the above. And again, we serve 15 grade levels. So for the most part, just to kind of answer some of Sheila's questioning, the difference of what you will see in my budget as opposed to some of the curriculum related resources that you will see in the schools when they come is that this budget really looks at district-wide resources. So again, we have made a very concerted effort to align not only our curriculum, we did that about 10 years ago, all of our schools utilize the same curriculum resources across all of our schools, beginning in our earliest grades all the way up through high school. But moreover, we have looked at aligning our instructional practices and providing equity in the resources that we provide so that all students, regardless of the town they reside in at the elementary level, have the access to the same high quality instructional material. So I'm hoping that you will see less difference. That does not necessarily mean the same is not always equal. So there may be some pockets where you will see some differences, and that is likely intentional. Moving on, the largest driver in the curriculum budget is information access fees. So if you were to look at, there are 3 primary lines. One of them is a district line, one of them is an elementary line, and the final one is a secondary line. Those 3 lines comprise 66% of this entire budget. With that, just to kind of frame your thinking, we have been moving away every year that I've come to this committee. This has been one of my talking points. When I first started managing this budget, I'd say textbooks, the books and textbook lines were upwards of $100,000 annually. We have progressively moved down where in this proposed budget, you'll notice that there is very limited funding in the textbook lines. We did retain some funding in there for secondary because occasionally for some of the secondary high school level courses that we offer, advanced placement, dual enrollment courses, those courses in that curricula sometimes require a textbook. So there is still some money maintained, but otherwise we've really shifted to online resources. Within that, other drivers are that, as Mr. Henderson just said, we're seeing significant cost increases from our vendors. And I would echo what Ken just said about getting quotes. We do our best to project and to monitor the percent increases from year to year to try to get a benchmark of how much can we anticipate that this will increase. When I reached out to one of our vendors recently to ask for a quote for next year, as I was planning this, I was told we would not be able to provide you anything until March of 2026. You should anticipate at least 10 or 15%. So again, we do our best. We don't always hit the mark, but we try to be conservative in the increases and hope that that will be sufficient to absorb those increases. Another thing, just to speak to a little bit, part of our strategic plan involves the expansion of the use of data to look at student performance and to respond to student performance at a personalized level. So part of that is that something that we really dug into as a district team is that we don't have access to data at the high school in the same way that we do at other grade levels. So for that reason, we have expanded the use of iReady as an assessment up to grade 9 so that we have benchmarks. We will be using it differently than we do in younger grade levels, but really that's going to give us some data on students who may not be performing at grade level to be able to make some decisions and support them. Beyond that, I just want to also speak to iReady a little bit because we've talked about this at this committee over the past couple of years. I think we focused a lot on iReady as an assessment, and it is, and we use it as a diagnostic assessment. It also contains instructional resources. So when I just spoke about moving away from textbooks, iReady is the platform that houses all of our instructional resources in both math and reading. It comes with what is called a teacher toolbox. And so as teachers are looking at data, there is an instructional scope and sequence, and there are lessons that allows teachers to differentiate what they are doing with their students based on the individual needs of students. So our instructional resources for reading and math are embedded in the cost of iReady. I just wanted to call attention to that. Books and info resources is 27%. This is one of the lines that, as Mr. Henderson said, we are looking to restore. That line saw some cuts predominantly in the elementary books and info resources line as a result of the cuts to the operating budget, or the reductions, I should say, to the operating budget. So we are looking to restore that because the need is still there. Specifically, we're targeting potential needs for instructional resources in social studies, writing, and potentially other instructional areas, but those are the two that we're really targeting right now. And another driver is just a general reduction in supplies and the cost of travel associated with curriculum and instruction. All of those lines combined are less than 1% of this total budget. So you'll see some reductions there. Seats. So again, I spoke a little bit to ongoing cost increases. Within this, next year, in the fiscal year 28 budget, when I come back here next year, you'll likely see some other increases in those lines, and that is because we were able to leverage grant funding. You may remember ESSER grants and the terms that the grants that came out of COVID. We were able to, 3 years ago, leverage grant funding to engage in multi-year contracts with some of our vendors through Info Access. Those are now retiring and expiring. And so we will no longer have access. We will look to renew. And so those costs will likely increase. We also were able to leverage some funding last year to bring in a new world language instructional resource, which we previously did not have. And so when we brought it in, they worked with us to give us a 15-month contract. And so that cost will come in next year as well. There's also some legislation that has been passed up in Concord over the past 6 months, roughly. The bill that I'm going to reference right now, House Bill 1015, was actually passed in July of 2024, but it becomes effective on July 1, 2027. That law requires any districts that offer elementary education to students through grade 5 to provide research and evidence-based instruction and materials to support a variety of content areas, including literacy and mathematics. And so what that means for us is that we've been working on this, but it means that we really need to dig into our current resources around literacy. There are very specific itemized areas pertaining to reading instruction, phonemic awareness, phonics, vocabulary instruction, et cetera, where we need to make sure that the resources that we are using and the practices that we are using in our classes with our teachers are evidence-based and connected to up-to-date research. So as we go through the professional learning connected with that, as we train our teachers, we need to go through the process of vetting the resources we currently use to make sure that they measure up to the minimum requirements in this bill. This is a bill that was deemed to, at the state level, not carry a cost, not because they didn't anticipate that it would bear a cost, but because they felt that individual districts all use a variety of different resources and they would be incapable of determining the cost district by district. So it does bear a cost. We will have to absorb that. We need to do the work to determine what that will look like. So that is on the horizon. We also, the minimum standards for school approval changed. Those were approved by the New Hampshire Board of Education back in December. They become effective next July. There are multiple requirements and changes to the courses that are offered at the high school level, to the required credits for high school graduation. We are working fast and furious at a fast pace with the high school right now to plan those changes. Those changes will likely come with brand new courses. There are new credit requirements. All of those come with cost to provide instructional resources and materials for the staff and the students. So more than likely next year, this budget will be up. A large part of that is due to recent legislation at the state. Okay, and I think that is it for this budget. Happy to answer any questions you have.
Any questions? How many courses do you think we're gonna have to add at the high school? Oh, that's uncertain at this time.
It is uncertain at this time because we have flexibility in how we address some of these new laws.
Okay.
We will let you know in the next couple months, but
Okay.
it could be anywhere from 0 if we restructure the way we're currently doing things, to up to 5 or 6 if we were to just create everything from scratch and right.
And
So
would that mean more staff, or would you be able to
it would
absorb?
likely be a shifting of staff.
Okay,
There are much higher requirements in social studies. And so it's really kind of looking at how we're going to do that.
all right,
So,
thank you.
yes.
Any other questions?
Are you anticipating, so it's a chunk of money spent on books last year, another 90,000 for being requested for 27. Are you expecting to buy more? We can have this again in 28. I know it's probably a cycle to how these things are.
It's a cycle, and again, by law, we are required to review instructional resources on a rotating basis. So there's a policy that will go to policy committee that we'll have to update, but there's new legislation that we have to dig into. That said, all districts are required to review resources on every 5 years, roughly. And so this year we're targeting, well, for next year's budget, social studies and writing. The following year, it could be that we're looking at math and science resources. And the year after that, it could be, right, another content area. We try to develop it from right? A long-range plan so that we're not constantly taxing the taxpayers with, we have to replace every content area all at once. So we try to do it in a way that's, responsible so that we're spacing it out and rotating. So to answer your question, more than likely, that line will still carry a fairly high amount. And again, that's the predominant line where we are funding all of our classrooms for all students, content areas district-wide.
Was there a specific content area that the money was spent on, 168,000 last year?
Last year, a lot of our resources were connected to literacy. And so the law that I just spoke to around high quality instructional materials and evidence-based instructional materials. We've done a lot of work in early elementary around the topics of phonics and phonemic awareness. And many of those books were also professional learning books for our staff to make sure that they're up to snuff on the instructional practices that, based on science and research of how students learn to read, we're up to where we need to be, and making sure that we're not using antiquated instructional practices that really aren't shown to develop any sort of positive learning results for students.
Thank you.
Yep.
Sandy, how long have we been doing iReady? How many years?
This is year
5.
5.
We're coming into year 5.
Or this, yes.
Just in time for them to change it again, right?
So
We're not planning on it.
Just seems like every time we, you know what I'm saying, the assessment changes every 5 years. Statewide.
The
It
statewide
always-
assessment changes, yes.
Every
Yes,
5 years.
Yes, and yes, iReady, different type of assessment from the statewide assessment.
Right.
But yes,
So about 5 years.
and that is one assessment that we were able to fund through ESSER funding. And so it came out of the grant and into the operating budget last year.
So in the 5 years, have we gathered enough data? Because the initial thought behind iReady was identify learning gaps post-COVID, right? For these kids that were stuck at home learning on computers, identify learning gaps, address those on an individual basis. Have we fully implemented that?
So what I would say is that was not exactly the intended purpose. So
I mean, I feel
yeah,
like
no,
that was one of
understood.
many, right?
Right, but the use of iReady is one prong of our work, which is part of the strategic plan, connected to multi-tiered systems of support, or MTSS. It's ongoing work, and so the foundational piece around MTSS is access to student data. And it's different types of assessments. So there's diagnostic assessments that help us to understand ahead of time, as you would in a medical office, like diagnose what students may need. iReady can serve that purpose. Classroom assessments and things of that nature that are connected to the curriculum give us different information about student needs. When we have that information, we're able to look at where students are, group them in small groups. Sometimes teachers are sharing instruction across grade levels so that some groups of students are going to one teacher to work on certain skills. We're doing a lot of work on this right now. So iReady, again, it's not necessarily about filling the gaps definitely from COVID. It's a piece of the puzzle, but it's ongoing work that is, quite honestly, it's never ending because we're always trying to address individualized needs in a systemic and systematic way. And that's one piece of everything that we're trying to do holistically.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
It's helpful for parents as well to give, a clear understanding and progress of how your kid's doing over the years as well. Especially they come in, regular intervals and you can compare.
It's been a pain point for me personally, so I have not found it to be super helpful personally, but I'm curious how it benefits the greater population.
And I think too, we've talked about this, but I think there are different components of iReady. And so there's the assessment that gives us the data. There is the personalized pathway that students can do independently. That tends to be what parents hear the most about because kids go home, they might struggle, they might be frustrated. That's not our area of focus. We're really using it for instructional purposes. And the resources that are embedded in the program are really what's giving us the most information on how
Are
to serve
we
students.
curating the content? in
It's-
alignment with our standards or?
Yes, it is completely aligned to our standards.
But do we curate it? Do the teachers curate the content that the kids are being?
Explain to me what you mean by that.
Well, if I'm doing if my child is doing already and they're doing an English assignment,
Yep.
does a teacher have the ability to curate what is the child is exposed to in
Yes.
iReady or right?
Yes.
So, but do they?
There's two purposes.
Right.
Right? So students can work on their own pathway, which may be below or above their current grade level, or at their grade level, different skills than what they're doing in the class. We're trying to minimize that to align it better. The other piece of it is there's a scope and sequence within iReady. We don't use that as our curriculum and say we're putting kids on iReady and we're just going to follow it. We have a written curriculum tied to competencies and standards. And teachers have taken the time to dig through those units and to curate resources from iReady, predominantly in math. We're still working on this in reading, but they've created instructional units that have resources from this resource, other free resources, other things that are out there to create an instructional plan aligned to the curriculum.
Great. That sounds like an evolution because I don't think it was always like that.
It may not have been, right?
That's an amazing
Because we've
improvement if
moved
that's the
into our
case.
implementation. of it.
Awesome.
Yeah. So we're working on it.
Any other questions for anybody?
All right. Professional learning? Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay. Professional learning budget is very close to the percentage of curriculum. It is 0.34%. Again, you can look at our actuals. Fiscal year 27, you'll see is an increase as opposed to last year's actuals and this year's voted budget. So moving forward, this budget provides professional learning opportunities to roughly over 500 staff members. It really comprises resources for professional staff, regular and special ed. That includes paraprofessionals as well and administrators. Professional learning right now for say custodians, for our bus drivers, our food service, when we have to train them in areas like suicide awareness and prevention and things of that nature. Right now that's coming out of a different line. I think we're working right now with the business office to streamline all of that. But this is the group that we're currently serving. We currently run 5 professional development days for all of our staff. Our paraeducators attend 3 of those. So professional staff, teachers, admin, they attend all 5. And we have 6 early release days. Those are the primary times when we are providing district-wide professional development. We also provide job-embedded professional development to our staff. If we're able to bring in contracted services, often they may come in during a school day, attend PLC meetings, things of that nature, to work with our teachers. The largest driver of this budget is contractual benefits. So those benefits include tuition reimbursement. So our teachers, our administrators have lines in their contract that allow them to get reimbursed up to a certain level for graduate level coursework. They also have the ability to attend workshops out of the district up to a certain threshold and receive stipends to participate in committee work or school improvement initiatives. So if you were to add those up, again, that's 70% of this budget. If you look at the variance over the years in the actuals, I would say those lines are the largest driving force or what determines some of that fluctuation. Because really from year to year, it's dependent on the interest of staff, how many workshops they attend, how many staff we have enrolled in graduate programs, and that's largely out of our control. So again, 70%. 19% of the budget is contracted services. So that is us bringing individuals in to train our staff. By and large, that happens again on professional development days, early release days, or during the school day if we're able to carve time out or utilize other times on when we might have a group of teachers working together in a PLC. And lastly, dues and fees is 7%. I know that Justin spoke to professional memberships in the SAU budget. I would just share that to differentiate from those professional memberships. These memberships are predominantly for our principals, to Association of School Principals, our assistant principals. We also fund, if any of our schools require to have professional memberships for honor societies, for clubs or things of that nature, those come out of this line as well. Student council memberships, things of that along those lines. Whereas the SAU memberships would serve other district-wide memberships to give the district access to different opportunities that exist. Seeds. So I've talked a little bit about legislation. There is a lot of legislation that has been coming out of Concord. Many of these laws require districts to train staff in different areas. Those expectations continue to increase. And again, more often than not, that requires some sort of trainer. If we can access free training or something we can provide ourselves, we do that. But we project that those costs will likely increase. We also are not entirely certain of the reliability of federal grant funding for Title II is the grant that I'm referencing here, because that grant provides monies for professional development for our educators. So right now, we believe that funding is secure for this year. We haven't received all of it, but we have about 20% of that grant right now. We are not sure how that will look in fiscal year 28 and beyond. So right now, just to put on your radar, all of our funding for the mentoring and new teacher induction program comes out of grant. We also fund some of our contracted services for PD out of that and send district teams to workshops. So that would reduce our ability to do all of those different things. And like Mr. Henderson, we'll continue to seek grant funding everywhere we can. And I'm happy to answer any questions here.
Gotta love those unfunded mandates.
Any questions? I want to thank everybody for presenting their budgets this evening. Do we want to
Yes,
just,
we should make a motion to accept the technology budget and, well, we should do them separately.
yes,
The technology budget for review.
do we have a
Second.
second? Okay, we have a second. All those in favor of accepting the technology budget for review?
Oh, sorry, I'm in.
6-0-0.
And I would also like to make a motion to accept the curriculum budget for review as well.
And we have a motion for the curriculum budget.
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor? 7-0-0. Can you do the professional?
School board.
That we need to do the,
The SAU and the school board.
Yep.
So, right, make a motion to accept the SAU budget for review.
Second.
we have a second. All those in favor? 7-0-0.
And finally, the
School board.
would also like to make a motion to accept the school board budget for review.
Second.
All those in favor? Unanimous and professional.
Oh, the
Yeah.
professional learning line as well.
Does anybody, you wanna make that motion, sir?
No, sure, I'll make the
Get
motion.
it. Here we go.
Get out in front of it. Okay, we have
Second.
we have a second for professional learning. All those in favor? 7-0-0. And did you have a question?
No.
Okay, you were just getting in front of that. Sheila?
I do have a question.
Okay,
Sorry.
it's
I
okay.
promise you we're going after this because it's just about my bedtime. Can we go back to the end of last year for a second?
Which document?
This, the financial for the end of June 30th, 2024. The one that's on the back of this.
The variance worksheet.
Last page. I'm with you, Justin, just keep up with me.
Wanna make sure we're all looking at the same
I know.
thing.
Dates are messing me up, but this is okay. 8354, I did not watch the last school board meeting, can you tell me if that's the correct number?
83,471, yeah, that's the actuals for the 20, for the
Budget
25.
balance, unassigned fund balance, last page of the financial. The unassigned fund balance number was
7.6,
7.6.
I don't know the rest, so I
No,
can.
no, no, that's good enough.
7.6.
Okay, so can I ask Moses for a second here and just go back for a second, okay? So we got 7.6, which you're right in there, Justin.
Thank you.
But we need to add 3.2 to this. I want the original number before the buy down.
What do you mean, the starting unassigned fund balance,
The original number,
16,
it was 16 was the original.
Yep.
Not at the beginning of the year.
Talking before
Saying
the lease.
after everything was approved and spent. So we've got, if I take 7.6 and add 3.2, which was the payoff for the lease that came out of this budget, right?
yeah.
Okay. 1.2,
What are you trying to get at? I don't
I'm
think
trying to go
following.
reverse, so I'm trying to figure out what the original number was before the 1.2 in encumbrances, the 3.2 in the
Oh,
phase, plus what's left. I wanna add it all together and find out what that top number was before it was put down.
Could I make a suggestion about maybe how we do that? At the last school board meeting, I reported out and Maria reported out the unassigned fund balance.
Correct.
There was a portion of that meeting that speaks to the specific breakdown of revenue and expenses, the additional fiscal 25 money that the board decided to utilize that was
Yes.
not in the budget. So what my recommendation would be is I could forward that specific clip to this committee because I think it has all the information you're looking for. And then potentially people could view it, and if there's discussion after it, we could visit it at the
I
next
know
meeting.
that this is what we got to, but I'm trying to figure out how we.
How you, yeah, so like
That's all.
Justin said, we had two documents, one is the unassigned fund balance, which has line by line starting, then the encumbrances from the prior year, the encumbrances for this current year. And then it's a second document that has all the projects that the school board authorized
Right,
to use monies from last year to this year. It has all the projects,
So
I
the-
think it's 5 of them.
all that extra stuff is in there
Yes.
with this, as well as the phase one.
Yes.
Cause that threw me, Maria, with that 3.2 out of that line. I was like, whoa.
So
What
that
happened? And then I
between
realized
now
what
and
it was.
next meeting, I'll circulate a video clip of the presentation
Yes.
and any supporting documentation that was part of that packet.
All right, thank you.
That's all I had. Told you, good time.
All right, is there any other business that we need to address this evening?
The only thing I wanted to ask is, we have our next meeting dates set for the 25th of September. We have our elementary schools and our early childhood on the agenda. If there are any recommendations from budget committee members of additional things you'd want to see outside of the framework of the format of presentations this evening, please pass that Maria and I's way, and we'll make those adjustments before then.
Okay, I appreciate that. Then we have the future dates, and we know who's coming when. And if there's nothing else, you're